Well, it is that time of year to rank my top 25 favorite roller coasters. I've been doing this for the past few years, and it is that time. My list has changed quite a bit since last year. In fact, I broke my 100th coaster this year. Last year, I was at 94 coasters at the end of the year, and now I'm at 137. So I got to ride a lot of new rides, visit many new parks, and overall, my list has changed quite a bit. Most of the coasters that were on my top 25 last year are nowhere even close anymore on it. So yeah, my list has changed dramatically, and yeah, we're gonna go over it today. But just keep in mind that these are all my opinions. None of these are scientific. If they were scientific, there would be absolutely no point in making a video like. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Respect my opinions. Tell me what your guys' favorite coasters in the comments down below. So yeah, without any further ado, let's begin with the video. But starting off with the number 25 spot, we have Cheetah Hunt from Busch Gardens, Tampa Bay. This is a very fun, intimate multi-blitz coaster. It has 3 really powerful launches with some really good airtime. This ride isn't really airtime focused, it's really focused on a scenic storytelling element, having some of those fast-paced transitions that intimate blitzes are known for, but also having some great airtime and just overall a speed machine. It is just an overall really fun coaster to ride. It is definitely a must-do when you go to Busch Gardens. I really do enjoy it, and whenever it has a short line or I have a fast pass, I always make sure to always get on this coaster because of how fun it is. This is definitely a coaster that the whole family needs to ride, and even though it is technically a family coaster, it's a really good family coaster. But coming at the number 24 spot is Talon from Dorney Park. This B&M inverted roller coaster is an absolutely phenomenal roller coaster. This ride has some great positive G-forces, some amazing floaty inversions. This is like a really good B&M invert, and I was expecting it to be good, but not that great. And honestly, this ride surprised me. It has some really good elements. I love the layout. It's a very unique layout for a B&M invert. You're used to just seeing rapid fire inversions. This one has the rapid fire inversions at the beginning, but then it goes into an awesome twister section. That corkscrew is really good, and there's a surprising pop of footer airtime right before that final brake run. Overall, I think Talon's a fantastic coaster, and it's definitely a coaster you must check out at Dorney Park. But coming at the number 23 spot is Fahrenheit at Hershey Park. This is an intimate multi-looper, very interesting roller coaster. This is kind of Intimate's take with the vertical lift so like a Gersar Eurofighter, but then a B&M style multi-looping layout. This ride features a very unique Norwegian loop, a Cobra roll, and 2 corkscrews. It's a very unique layout. Overall, I think the layout is really good. This ride also has an amazing, outstanding moment of ejector airtime towards the end. Overall, this ride is really good. The only part I don't like it, how long the lines can be. When I went to Hershey Park, I had fast tracks. I didn't worry about it, but like it was like over an hour wait and it wasn't even noon yet. But yeah, I think it's a great attraction, really good forces, really smooth. You got to get a front row ride, especially for those views. It's just so much fun, and I absolutely love this coaster. But coming to the number 22 spot is Apollo's Chariot from Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. This is the only coaster from Busch Gardens, Williamsburg to make my list this year. This B&M Hyper is a really fantastic coaster. The first drop may be a bit underwhelming for a B&M Hyper, but then the rest of the layout makes up, featuring some great floater airtime. As much as this coaster may not have the most forceful airtime out of like any B&M Hyper, in fact, it has the weakest out of any of them that I've ridden. The grade setting is awesome. I love the helix, pretty forceful, and overall this ride setting is amazing, and there's a few really weird kinks of airtime, especially there's one ejected towards the end of the ride. But overall, Apollo's Chariot's a pretty fun B&M Hyper. I just wish it was more modern. But coming at the number 21 spot is the world's tallest roller coaster, King to Cod, Six Flags Great Adventure. This intimate accelerator coaster is an absolutely amazing ride. Despite I only got one ride this year, it was so good that I moved it up considerably on my rankings. This intimate is an absolutely amazing ride. The 0 to 120 miles per hour is an absolutely amazing feeling. You'll never experience something like that other than a few other intimates. Going up the top, that's crazy. You get really nice views on the top. Overall, King to Cod is a lot of fun, and it's not rough. It's really smooth, and it gives a really good forceful experience. But coming at the number 20 spot is Gale Force from Playland's Castaway Cove. This is an absolutely amazing SNS multi-launch. This is kind of SNS's takes on the premier ride Skyrocket 2, but in my opinion, it is way better. It is so smooth, so forceful. There's great positives, great ejector airtime. This ride has everything. The restraints aren't the best, but they're not too uncomfortable. But overall, I really have a blast on this coaster. It is so much fun. There are so many great forces. This is a must ride if you're in the Ocean City area. But coming at the number 19 spot is Raptor from Cedar Point. This B&M invert is a fantastic B&M invert. Many positive forces, great pacing. This really has almost everything I love in a B&M invert. The inversions are great, nice and whippy, and it really pulls some good forces. If you can ride Raptor without the mid-course turned on, that second half is legendary. If I had to point out a few spots to brace for, I would say brace for that Cobra roll, especially if you're in the back of the train. That Cobra roll could be a bit jarring on the entrance of the first part of the ride's Cobra roll. But overall, Raptor is just a fantastic B&M invert and is a great fit for Cedar Point. It's definitely one of B&M's best inverted coasters. But coming at the number 18 spot, in my opinion, is the most underrated coaster on this list. This is Steel Force from Dorney Park. This coaster is really fun with some really good airtime. The first part of the ride reminds me a lot of Magnum XL 200 with a great first drop giving some ejector airtime in that back to having a really intense and lateral filled turnaround. I was impressed by that. And the other part of the ride, you got to be in the front of the train, but you get some really awesome standing flojector airtime. When I rode it, the trims were hitting that hard, so honestly I really enjoyed it and I thought this was a fantastic Morgan hyper coaster. Coming at the number 17 spot is another hyper coaster, this being Nitro from Six Flags Great Adventure. I didn't get the chance to ride this year because it was closed on my visit, but it is back open now apparently. But when I did get to ride this in 2021 and 2020, my rides on this hyper coaster were absolutely amazing. This ride last year gave really good airtime. I rode it on a hot summer day, so the ride was running really fast, great float of airtime. Overall, Nitro is amazing. The upwards helix into that mid-course brake run is freaking intense. And the airtime finale is really good. By far my favorite finale on a B&M Hyper in my opinion. But coming at the number 16 spot is Stormrunner from Hershey Park. Stormrunner is an absolutely amazing hydraulic launch coaster built by Intamin. It is so much fun. That first launch is absolutely amazing, crazy intense, and that top hat giving great airtime. And this ride actually has a pretty good layout. You go into this fine snake dive element, which is awesome, which is like a back-to-back Heartline roll element. Absolutely insane, especially if you're in that back row. You get whipped through that second inversion. And also the Cobra loop is like an Immelman, but it's pretty shaped weirdly. I don't know, it's pretty interesting. And of course, those final few elements are pretty snappy. Overall, it is a short ride, but in my opinion, it is a really good and fun ride. And it's definitely worth the wait if you're at Hershey Park. But coming at the number 15 spot is Kumba from Busch Gardens, Tampa. This B&M sit-down looper is a fantastic and intense B&M. This ride has 7 intense inversions. It is so smooth for almost being 30 years old. And honestly, this ride is so re-rideable. This is really what a good B&M sit-down looper is. In fact, this is the only sit-down looper built by B&M that is even on my list. That's how good this coaster is. The great whippiness, there's a moment of ejector airtime coming out of the 0G roll, and it has fantastic pacing. It is so smooth, so intense, and overall, in my opinion, for a B&M, it is one of their best. But coming at the number 14 spot is Jersey Devil Coaster from Six Flags Great Adventure. This is an RMC Raptor coaster that opened up last year. I got to ride it last year and I have moved it up since my newest ride. This ride is running so good this year. So many great moments. If I were to highlight a few of those moments, that first drop is one of the best first drops I've ever experienced. And yes, that is like over some other amazing roller coasters that are on this list. Also, the Camelback is crazy good ejector. That sustained 0G stall with a few seconds of really good hang time. I absolutely love that moment. In my opinion, that's almost a perfect stall. You get a really good strong moment of ejector airtime coming off of that turnaround, and a 0G roll is nice and floaty, getting a little bit of air coming off of it. And the dive off the mid-course is crazy laterals. Overall, Jersey Devil is really good and is, in my opinion, an elite roller coaster. I absolutely love it. But coming at the number 13 spot, we have, in my opinion, the best B&M inverted roller coaster. This is Montu at Busch Gardens, Tampa Bay. This B&M invert is absolutely amazing. In my opinion, this is the perfect invert, at least North America wise. This ride has so many intense moments. It is a great intensity monster. It has the amazing Batwing element, which is only found on 2 of their inverts, and it is absolutely stunning. The rest of the ride is complemented very well with some amazingly themed Egyptian trenches, and the ride recently got repainted to where it looks like it used to look like when it opened in 1995. It's no longer faded. I personally like the way it is. It's very bright though. But overall, Montu is a fantastic B&M invert. I love how intense it is, and this was my first ever really big roller coaster, and it's still comfortably in my top 15. But coming at the number 12 spot is the original Giga coaster, Millennium Force. This Intamin Giga is absolutely amazing. I think this is probably the most hated roller coaster on this list. Not saying it's a bad ride, but it's not as good as some other roller coasters. I love this ride. That first drop is amazing, and you get some really good forces on that first overbank. I will say, it is definitely true, this ride does lack in airtime. In fact, the best airtime moment is a speed hill right before the end of the ride, but I don't really look at this ride as being airtime. I look at it as the speed and just pure fun, and that's why I rank this coaster so high. I love this thing because of that, not because of the airtime or the intensity. Even though it is pretty intense in those first few elements, this ride is just pure fun, and being able to ride this with some of my best friends is absolutely amazing. But coming at the number 11 spot, we have Magnum XL 200 from the same exact park. This is the original hyper coaster. Let me tell you one thing, if you love raw airtime like I do, this is your ride. This past summer, I got the fortunate opportunity to get a night ride trimless on this coaster. Let me tell you one thing, when they turn off those trims on a fully loaded train, the ride is even more wild than what it already is. This ride has so many great ejector airtime moments. The first part of the ride is a bit odd, especially with the arrow shaping. I mean, come on, this coaster was designed by hand, but there is some crazy good moments. There's a really good sustained moment in the first part of the ride, and of course, those triangle hills are absolutely beautifully designed because of how stupidly good airtime they give. But kicking off at the number 10 spot, we have Mako from SeaWorld Orlando. This is a B&M hypercoaster that opened back up in 2016. It is a newer hyper, so the airtime's a lot better on this, and it really is. That first drop gives some amazing airtime. The 5-second floater hill is one of the most sustained floater airtime hills ever out there. The speed hill gives borderline ejector airtime, and overall, this is an absolutely fantastic airtime machine, and I absolutely love marathoning this whenever I'm at SeaWorld Orlando. Fantastic coaster, and is a must do. If I really had to say the only part of the ride that I didn't fully like and I still say could be improved on is the second half of the ride. Honestly, it is a bit weak, but even then, it's still a fantastic ride, and that first part of the ride makes it a top 10 coaster for me. But coming at the number 9 spot is Candemonium from Hershey Park. This is my favorite B&M hypercoaster, and really the only reason why is that second half. That second half is fantastic. Both Mako and Candemonium really have the same first half. There's not too many differences. They both have amazing airtime on the out and back portion, and then Candemonium doesn't have a mid-course that will slow you down. It has an upward helix into an off-axis hill, which is fantastic. It gives a weird moment of like sideways projector airtime. I love that moment. And then after that, you're going to go into a little hill that gives airtime. It is pretty trimmed. You also go around the Kisses Fountain, which I find amazing. The only reason why I rank Candemonium currently over Mako is because of that second half. If I was really just comparing the first halves, I'd say Mako would be better. But then, in my opinion, Candemonium has the superior second half. But still, both of those coasters are amazing. But for now, Candemonium is at my number 9 spot. But coming at the number 8 spot is the one, the only Maverick from Cedar Point. This is an intimate Blitz coaster, and this is an insane coaster. This is basically I-305 before I-305. It has the snaps, the airtime, and overall this ride is absolutely amazing. The only part I would say that I was a little let down by was the second launch. I thought the second launch was actually kind of forceless. It kind of felt like Velocicoaster's rolling launch, but just in my opinion not as good. But overall the rest of the line is absolutely amazing. Those snaps in the second half are actually wicked on how good they are. I was impressed by Maverick, to say the least. The back row on that first drop is literally world class. This ride is amazing, especially in that back car. It is a great coaster, and it's definitely a coaster you must do whenever you go to Cedar Point. Doesn't matter, you gotta do it. But coming at the number 7 spot is the one, the only Twisted Timbers from King's Dominion. This was my first RMC and it still holds up. I haven't ridden this coaster since 2021, but the rides I remember were absolutely amazing. The ejector airtime. This is literally a mini Steel Vengeance, and it is very true. You're just getting popped out of your seat. Those triple camelbacks are absolutely amazing with sustained ejector, and all the quick pops of ejector. That trick track double up is pretty cool. That cutback inversion is pretty whippy. Overall, this is an absolutely amazing RMC. It's sad I only ever got to ride this coaster twice because it probably would be higher, but overall, Twisted Timbers is a fantastic ride, and it's definitely a must-do when you're at King's Dominion. Honestly, it's one of my favorite coasters there, and it's definitely deserving of a top 10 spot in this list. Sticking in the same exact park for the number 6 spot, we have Intimidator 305, the Intamin Giga coaster. This is my favorite Intamin Giga for good reason. This ride is so intense. This is by far the most intense coaster in the list. That first turn is crazy. There's a few moments of good ejector airtime, but this ride is mainly focused on crazy fast-paced snappy transitions and the speed. You hold the speed throughout the whole layout really good. Like, you're averaging 70 miles per hour plus during that first part of the ride. The trimmed airtime hill may be the worst part of the ride, but still you're going to get some good flutter on that, and the crazy snap before that final brake run is absolutely insane. Overall, Intimidator 305 is really good and is absolutely crazy. There's just so much stuff that this ride offers that I can name off, and that's why I love this Giga coaster, but it just barely misses my top 5. But coming at the number 5 spot, we have Skyrush from Hershey Park. This is the newest coaster to come into my top 5, and this coaster is absolutely insane. From that first drop, which just feels like a car crash, to the 2 crazy ejector hills, this ride is just so much fun. There are so many great moments. It may not have the best layout of a roller coaster, but what it does with those elements, it makes the ride so good. Those 2 ejector hills give crazy sustained ejector. You get some awesome laterals on one of the overbanks, and the one snappy transition like Intimidator 305 gives some really good ejector airtime. And here's probably the most controversial thing that I think about Skyrush. I don't mind the restraints. I think the restraints are actually somewhat decent. Granted, they aren't the most comfortable, and you probably will be stapled by the end of the ride, but overall, they're not that bad. But to be honest, Skyrush is an absolutely amazing coaster and deserves to be in my top 5. Maybe when I go back to Hershey Park, I may move it into my top 4. I don't know. We'll see. But coming at the number 4 spot is El Toro. Of course, my favorite wooden roller coaster and the only wooden roller coaster to be in my top 25. Yeah, this is the only one. But what this is absolutely amazing. I got a total of 7 rides this year on it, and it was running really good. It was crazy ejector, and I finally got a ride in the back row. So I've got to experience that drop at its full potential. And let me tell you one thing, that first drop is crazy. Overall, the ride is really good. The 2 ejector hills are great, and the rolling thunder hill. The ride does have that little dead section in the middle that is a little rough, but honestly, I don't mind it. I think the ride altogether is really good, and the finale I can appreciate now. I actually really enjoy those last switchbacks. It really adds a lot to the ride. But overall, El Toro is a fantastic coaster. And right now, the future of this coaster is very uncertain, but I am hoping this coaster does reopen for next year so I can get back on it for more rides. So yeah, El Toro is definitely worthy of a top 5 spot. But coming at the number 3 spot is the one and only Jurassic World Velocicoaster. This is an absolutely amazing Intamin multi-launch. This is my favorite launch coaster for good reason. I can almost say this ride is a perfect package for what it is. It features the great inversions of an Intamin, great ejector airtime, the theming is spot on. This is really everything I like in a roller coaster. Now, it isn't my favorite roller coaster though, but it is an absolutely amazing coaster. It's almost everything that I look for in a roller coaster. Amazing elements. That Mosasaurus roll is one of the best inversions found on any roller coaster. In fact, it is probably the best inversion ever. You get crazy laterals mixed in with ejector airtime and hang time. It's all weird. The second part of the ride, there's airtime moments everywhere. It feels like an RMC. It has like those quick pops of RMC ejector style airtime. So many great elements that this ride features. And overall, the Jurassic World Velocicoaster is one of the best coasters in the world. It may be the best, but at that point, that's just personal preference. But it does place in my top 3. But coming at the number 2 spot, we have Iron Gwazi from Busch Gardens, Tampa Bay. This is the recently opened RMC Hyper Hybrid, and it is absolutely amazing. This ride has everything going for it. Great ejector airtime, great inversions, as well as phenomenal pacing. My god, does this ride haul through its layout. This ride has so many great elements. That first drop, in my opinion, is the best drop on a roller coaster that I have personally done. That death roll gives so much crazy whip and laterals while you're going through it. The wave turn gives some of the most insane ejector airtime I have ever experienced on a roller coaster, and you're taking that sideways, and it's crazy sustained. That gives it even more points. The layout is great. There's like no dud. There's no like dud area of the ride. Everything is one element after another. It's just rapid fire. And honestly, the coaster feels like it actually gets faster while going through the layout, unlike some coasters where it feels a little slower towards the end. Overall, Iron Gwazi is one of the best coasters, and in my opinion, is the best coaster in the state of Florida. But coming in finally at the number 1 spot is the one, the only Steel Vengeance from Cedar Point, America's rock and roller coaster. This ride is, in my opinion, a perfect roller coaster. This ride is so great, so much airtime. Like, it literally has the most airtime on a roller coaster. It is all ejector. There's none of that floater crap on it, and there's so many great moments. The inversions are great. That 0G stall is really whippy. That first drop's insane. To name a few moments that I really love on this ride, that top hat is absolutely amazing. Wicked laterals mixed in with sustained sustained ejector. Of course, the outer bank hill, in my opinion, the best moment on the coaster. The drop off the mid course is also a really good sustained ejector moment, as well as that first drop. And it's this crazy off axis moment during the second part of the ride. This ride is really just everything. You got the massive elements in the first part of the ride that gives sustained airtime, plus the awesome inversions. And then the second part of the ride is RMC's classic quick pops and awesome hand choppers during the second part of the ride. Just even if this ride was just the first part of the ride, it'd be top 10. Top 5 for me also probably. But with both ride parts of this ride in, it is in my opinion the best coaster in the world. So there it is, my top 25 favorite coasters of 2022. This year I got to ride many brand new roller coasters and my list had changed quite a lot since last year. I recommend go watching the video from last year to see what coasters on it. Guarantee you, more than 50% of the coasters that were on the list last year are no longer on it. So tell me in the comment section down below, how do you guys think of my opinions? How do you guys think of my list? Tell me what's your guys' favorite coasters in the comment section down below. Keep the comments respectful. Please don't argue in the comments about which coaster is better, because these are all opinionated. There is no scientifically facted favorite best coaster in the world. These are all my opinions, and tell me what you guys think of the comment section down below. I'll see you guys in the next video. Like, comment, subscribe, and bye everyone.